So I think any campuses that wants to get started being LGBT inclusive or wants to kind of measure where they're at for LGBTQ inclusion, that's why we provide the Campus Pride Index. It's an online tool that has about 80 different benchmarks around LGBTQ inclusion. And by taking that assessment tool, you're able to leave with an action plan. My name is Shane Windmeyer. I am the executive director and the founder of Campus Pride. Campus Pride started in 2001 when myself and a few of my colleagues who were younger professionals in higher education decided that there needed to be a website, a clearinghouse for LGBTQ plus students who were looking to create change to make their campuses better. So we started an organization online called Campus Pride Net. And it was really a clearinghouse of resources for LGBT young people. And it wasn't until 2006, 2007 when I published a book called The Advocate College Guide. That was the first time ever that we've had a comprehensive look at what does it take to be LGBT friendly. I think we've reached a time in 2020 where colleges want to be LGBTQ friendly, but they don't necessarily know what that means, especially when it comes to, transgender or bisexual or middle sexuality. And, oftentimes colleges think by having a LGBTQ club or a gay pride event on campus, or maybe even a drag show, that somehow that makes them gay friendly or queer friendly. And while those programs and those events are important, it's about the policies, the programs and practices of the campus that create the foundation for campuses to truly be authentic and to have meaningful engagement with LGBTQ people, and to create that sense of safety that every family or parent or young person wants as an LGBTQ person going to college. As part of the ranking that we do with Best Colleges, we're really taking the data from the Campus Pride Index. And what the Campus Pride Index does is it has 8 different, what we call LGBTQ friendly factors, which are 8 different areas of campus, from housing to campus safety, to academics, to student life. And it looks at these factors, and in these factors, there's best practices or a research foundation of programs and policies that create that environment for LGBTQ inclusion. And so some of those might be having a mentorship program for LGBTQ students. Possibly it's having gender inclusive policies when it comes to health insurance. So having gender affirmation covered as part of the health plan. It could be having a student club for transgender students or LGBTQ students. I think it's real important to think about the signals that it takes for an LGBTQ student to kind of get the message that they're welcome and that they're included, that we have out LGBT resident advisors, that we have orientation folks that are out. You should have, LGBTQ people just as you do other aspects of diversity in everything you do on campus. That includes queer people, LGBTQ language that calls out transgender lives and their experiences, that talks about bisexuality, talks about being gay, uses the term LGBTQ+. It is so simple for people to think, oh, I have a rainbow flag, or I have a safe space program, and we have a safe space sticker on my door as a faculty member. Those are important symbols to send a signal of inclusion, but oftentimes our signals are also sent in what we say and what we don't say as administrators, as staff, as faculty, as fellow students. And so, when we talk about diversity, we need to talk about diversity in an intersectional manner, making sure that they understand that people of color, our Latinx or our African American students, making sure that there's services that are intersectional for those LGBTQ people of color or those queer people of color. And so, we try to look at it from a policy, program, and practice perspective. In higher education, we can no longer have these silos of, we're doing LGBTQ work. Okay, we're doing international student work. Okay, we're doing, African American work, or we're doing Latinx community work. I mean, these communities are intersectional, and we have to start approaching them that way. I think there's an assumption that every college campus is a bastion of LGBTQ progress, and that queer people run the campus and everything is, rainbows and unicorns. But in reality, It's only about a quarter to 30% of colleges in this country have inclusion when it comes to sexual orientation in their non-discrimination policy. So what that means is that there are roughly 60 to 70% of colleges out there that don't even have a basic policy that says that they don't discriminate on the basis of sexual orientation. Now, when we look at transgender or gender identity, that number drops even lower. And so it's important that you ask about policies. It's also important that you ask about the programs that they have for trans, for bisexual, for LGBT, the whole spectrum of the rainbow community, as you might call it, on a college campus. It's also important to note that there are colleges sadly, that call themselves religious, that openly discriminate against LGBTQ young people, meaning that they have policies through Title IX that says they can discriminate towards someone for being transgender or gay, for being out on campus. And so you want to make sure that you don't go to any of those campuses, even though you may have strong religious beliefs. We are in a time where just because you're a Christian or whatever religion you believe in, that is not synonymous with not being LGBT inclusive. So it's kind of tricky because there are many religious schools out there that have created an affirming, welcoming space for LGBTQ people, but there are many that also openly discriminate or don't tell you until you really dig deep. I think at the end of the day, it's about doing your research. Just like if you want to be a scientist, you want to find campuses that support science. So if you want to be a LGBTQ out person on a campus, you want to find campuses that are going to be supportive of you being your authentic self.